I remember my one of my instructors was just sitting there, and he's usually very talkative, criticizing the images, giving you constructive critique, and he didn't say a single word at all. It was silent for maybe about a minute, and then he looked at me, Chris, how the hell did you do this? This is so unexpected good, and you should send this to Elon Musk or Amazon or to Hollywood, and then they would create something about it.
In this latest episode of the Vieunite Art In Focus series, we meet Swiss photographer Christian Redermayer, whose stunning neo-noir work can be found in the Vieunite library. Christian's photography captures human stories within the stark, urban landscape, juxtaposing the city's machinery against the vastness of the cosmos. His dark and atmospheric aesthetic evokes classic films from the 1930s and 1940s like Carol Reed's The Third Man or Fritz Lang's M, drawing viewers into his unique photographic world. In this interview, I hope we'll learn more about how Christian transforms ordinary scenes into extraordinary photographs and how he sees the role of photography in our modern world. So let's get straight into it. Christian, your work's got a starkly beautiful, cinematic and noirish look. I'm thinking of images like Bus Stop and Vantropolis.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key sources of inspiration that fuel your artistic vision?
First of all, thank you, Ben, for this wonderful introduction. I'm humbled to be with you here today and talk about my work and my inspiration. I remember when I was a boy, I was always amazed about this black and white movies like Third Man, as you mentioned it before, or the movie from Fritz Lang, who produced Metropolis back in 1927. And when I saw this as a boy, I was just amazed how he could create this movie with his inspiration and vision about the future world. And some parts are real today.
Mm.
And I was just curious how these guys or photographers or creative people created such a strong storytelling plots and movies at the end to watch. And I'm still watching it. It's not boring at all for me. So I'm still inspired and I still see new sceneries or new scenes which I can think, how did they do this back in the days with all the techniques and the tools which they had in the past? It was even more difficult than today, I guess, with all the new technologies.
Mm. And is Vantropolis a deliberate reference to Metropolis?
Yes, it was for sure the source for creating Ventropolis or starting my first image, creating Ventropolis. This was back in the days, and I guess it was 2018 or 17 when I was wandering through Vancouver at night. It was dark, it was raining, and Vancouver is full with beautiful designed new skyscrapers. And I was just walking around, and there was huge puddles of rain and water. And then I saw a huge building in front of me underneath a bridge, and then I looked at it, and it was mirrored in a huge puddle. And I had luckily my camera with me. I just came from my photography college, wandering back home, and it was almost midnight. My wife was missing me, calling me, "Where are you, Chris?" I'm on my way home finally. And I took out my camera and just took a random photograph without any expectations or thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna create Metropolis." I took the photo and then I went home, ate something quickly, and then I thought, I cannot go to sleep. I have to look at it. So I opened my laptop and opened Lightroom, imported the photograph into Lightroom, and I saw it. It's like, And then I don't know how was working in my mind. I just had this movie Metropolis suddenly in my mind. And as they started creating an image at night, late at night, till, I don't know, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and my wife is already asleep. And I couldn't stop. It was just a flow, and I have to do it, I cannot go to sleep. And yeah, it wasn't finished at the end, but I put it by side at 3 o'clock in the morning, was so tired. And the day after, I looked at it again and said, whoa, this could be something to create. But I didn't know what to create till then.
So Metropolis is a dystopian film.
Yeah.
It's a kind of fable in some ways of how
Hmm.
societies are organized along very unequal lines,
Yeah,
and how technology can accelerate those divisions.
exactly.
And it was made in the 1930s, and you know, it deals with lots of those sort of ideas about how society is organized, and
Hmm.
politics that were very, very vital at that
Exactly.
time. Um, and technology plays a role in this. There's a character at the center of it who's a robot called, I think she's called Helga,
Yeah, her name's Helga. Yeah.
and she's like a kind of femme fatale figure. She's the robot version of the principal love interest in the film,
Exactly.
and um, there's a sci-fi element to that. You know, we don't necessarily look at it now and think this is a sci-fi film because it was made in the 1930s, but it is a science fiction film, really.
It is indeed.
And looking at a lot of your photographs, I can see other elements of science fiction. So, as well as the kind of noir aesthetic that comes from that kind of golden age of Hollywood, and also sort of German expressionist cinema from the 30s,
Hmm.
and well, from the 20s and through to the 40s.
Exactly.
Um, I also see elements of traces of filmmakers like Stanley Kubrick, Ridley Scott.
Hmm.
Are they interesting to you?
They are actually very interesting to me. Uh, when I saw the first part of Alien, for example, uh, this was, I guess, what's his name? His name is Giger. He designed all this
Yes, H.R. Giger.
HR Giger, and he was a citizen from the city in Switzerland where I grew up. And when I saw this the first time, I thought, like, how did he do this? Like, how did he get the inspiration? It's so I don't like this figure alien itself. It looks very scary to me. But I liked how he created this unreal scenery, this science fiction story about an unknown species coming out from the universe and is trying to destroy the human beings. And but I was amazed how about the darkness, the mystical parts, the scary parts. This for sure also influenced my work as well, and even Ridley Scott as well. Man, all his movies are great. Like
Yeah.
I like fantasy movies also. I like Lord of Rings. I'm always amazed how they designing such stories. Like you have a book for as a base, and then you're starting to create a plot for such a movie, and I'm just amazed. Like, and this
Mm,
creates inspirations for myself
mm,
and ideas, a lot of ideas. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, I can see it in your work. It's amazing how images can really tell a story. So let's bring it back down to earth. I mean, to give our viewers a better sense of who you are, could you walk us through a typical day in the life of Christian Redermayer?
Usually my days are actually pretty challenging. They're not my regular days. When I'm stable and I'm settled in where I was before in Vancouver, my daily routine was usually having a good night's sleep. Uh, that's very important. And then getting up in the morning, having a nice Italian coffee with my mocha machine. I'm always drinking Lavazza coffee in the morning, and the mocha machine it must be 30 years old, and it's still working. And this coffee machine is always coming with me when I'm going on to travel somewhere, discovering the world. And then getting up, go to work, and trying to do my best every day, try to learn new things, treat my clients and customers as I like to have it, respectful, kind, having a good lunch, nice talks, and at one point going home. Um, yeah, share my day with my wife and listening to her story from the day. And then usually, if I have work with photography to do, I'm doing my work on finishing assignments for clients or working on a personal project or watching a movie with my wife together. And then sometimes during the week, I like to do sports a lot. I need sports to recover myself, um, empty my brain, getting new inspirations, being together with my teammates. I'm playing ice hockey. as a goaltender. Also not as a regular player. I have to be a goaltender. These crazy guys. Yeah, that's what I need. And then coming home, and having a good night's sleep again. Yeah.
So there's a lot of routine in your life. I can remember when I was going to art school, the person that taught me at art,
Yeah.
I can't remember quite how the conversation came up, but I must have said something stupid. And she said to me, actually, you know, when you go to art school, it's not the crazy people that you need to look out for. The really good ones live their lives like bank managers. And I think she was right. So if you've got an organized routine in your life, it is easier somehow to be creative.
Yeah, that's actually true. It's yeah, for me very important having a kind of a daily routine to be stable. If I actually I'm not in this situation because I don't know where my journey is going. Settling in Switzerland again, there's so many unknown parts. I don't know if it will be successful. I really hope so, but it's challenging for me being motivated and getting up without having a regular daily schedule, for example.
Mm,
And it does also affect my creativity.
mm,
Um, I'm actually stuck in with my creativity. I'm like an author which doesn't know what to write. What's like, I'm kind of anxious from the empty page to write the first sentence. Um,
mm-hmm.
that's my stage actually since a couple of years, I have to say. I'm kind of down in the base. I'm not, yeah, finding. I have so many unfinished projects, but I'm not ready to finish it because the flow is not here. So
Mm-hmm.
I need a routine to be stable enough mentally and to create new work, for example,
Mm.
and being satisfied with what I'm doing. So, and then I can work endless hours next to a regular work if you have a regular job, for example.
Mm.
But this part is actually missing. Yeah.
Mm. So we should explain that you lived in Vancouver
Yeah.
until when was it? About 3 or 4 months ago,
Till end of June.
and you're in the process of relocating your family
Yeah,
from Canada back to your native Switzerland.
exactly.
But there are some bureaucratic problems with this process.
Yeah, we have some unexpected difficulties with getting the visa approved for my wife and my stepson.
Mm.
Totally unexpected. These are hurdles, but we will overjump these hurdles. These are challenges, but there are always lessons learned
Yeah,
about it. But it's kind of annoying, but yeah, it
yeah,
is what it is. Yeah,
yeah. But your ideal life is quite structured and organized, and then
yeah.
at the end of the week, you take the to my mind, incredible risk of putting yourself on in an ice hockey goal. I'm amazed you've got all your teeth.
I mean, as a goalie, as a goaltender, nowadays you are protected with a beautiful mask and you have a cage in front of you. I remember when I started playing hockey as a little boy, the goaltenders in the first team, they didn't wear a mask at all. They just like they had a nice head on, and that's it. And they lost many, many teeth. So, but when I started as a boy, we had kind of a helmet with a cage on it. But I have to say that the equipment, of course, changed for the good during the last few decades, and it's just fun. It's fun being unique, being special again on the ice, and help your team to win games or having fun on the ice. That's the most important part. Having fun, and if you are successful as a team and can use skills from everyone, uh, that's really satisfying, I have to say.
So let's dive into your creative process. Once you've had your coffee,
Yeah.
how do you sort of go about making a piece of work, and particularly how do you approach a new project?
This is so hard to explain. How can I explain? I don't have a I don't have a process like a regular process. This just pops up. For example, we talked about movies before. Alien, Third Man, Metropolis. It can happen when I'm sitting at home on a couch, maybe reading a book or watching a movie, And sometimes I'm just taking photographs, random photographs when I'm wandering around the city without any purposes, for example, or having assignments for my clients for architectural work. I take photographs from the buildings, and then I watch a movie, and then I see a very impressive scene, and then the idea just pops up. This is so hard to explain. Uh, I I don't know, and then I have this scene in my head, and then I see my archive in front of me with all my photographs. And sometimes I remember exactly which date I took the photograph. It can be a few years back in the days. And then I'm kind of addicted sitting in front of my laptop and looking for this photograph or a few photographs and trying to, how could we match this to kind of envision this scene, which I just saw in a movie or read in a book before. And that's how I'm starting. And it's all usually always the first step is always finding the photographs, playing around, and turn it to black and white. This is the first step. And then just playing. I'm playing around with photographs till I'm kind of satisfied, and then trying new techniques out in Photoshop, new brushes, or working with selections, making it more dramatic, um, bringing more shadows, more darkness, or brighten it up. And then the ordinary scene is turning into something extraordinary.
Mm.
And then I'm getting into a flow. But to describe this like step by step, this is so hard. I don't know if you could do this as an artist. I don't know. It's just here in my brain.
Mm.
And then I don't know
No,
if this is a good answer or not. But
well,
yeah,
it makes complete sense to me because although I'm not a photographer, I was trained as a sculptor. But when I was working, it is very difficult to explain. I suppose at any given point, you can say explicitly what it is that you're doing. You could say what tool you're using, but I couldn't really sort of verbalize where I was trying to go. I might have a sense, an intuition, but there's a lot of serendipity and chance in the creative process, and
I
you've
mean
got to
when you
be alive to that. You've got to listen to yourself, haven't you?
yeah,
You've got to see what's going on around you and
right,
grasp opportunity. I was struck by when you were talking about how the Vantropolis series came about.
yeah,
You weren't expecting to discover that reflection on that night.
no,
And when you had a look at the image later on, it was a surprise to you that it had the qualities that it had. So once you've been given this kind of gift,
yeah,
with your practice, well, I suppose with some photographers, the process would end there. They develop the photograph if they're shooting on film, and some decision making in the exposure of the photograph. But that might be the end of the process. They might be what I'd call an indexical photographer who wants to witness a scene. You work differently from that, don't you? You use a lot of tools, a lot of digital tools in the post-production.
I'm using more and more digital tools for my post-production work. I didn't use that much when I created the first two or three images with Ventropolis, but it made me curious what's available to support my creative process, to improve my work, or transitioning my vision in my head into a photograph or image which you can look at. And yeah, I think the sky is the limit. Like
Mm.
if you're not trying to improve your skills, you're falling behind, and then it's it's kind of getting dull, if I can say. And I need to learn new skills. That's my natural personality, I guess. I'm
Mm.
curious about all the new things which are around. Even AI is. I'm very curious about AI. Maybe we'll talk about later about it. But I
Oh,
think,
absolutely.
yeah,
I do want to ask you a question about that. But I
yeah,
can see, for instance, in an image like Silver Moon,
yeah,
which is dominated by
yeah.
the moon,
The
but then
moon,
a
the moon.
sort of succession, an avenue or a
Yeah.
parade of futuristic buildings. this isn't a scene you're going to have been able to capture by walking around it. Like, it doesn't exist. It looks like it could exist, and obviously every element of it you've found somewhere, but you must have built that
Yeah.
image from lots of different photographs.
That's actually pretty funny. This was the random photograph which I explained a few minutes ago when I was wandering back home at night during a rainy day when I saw this building in front of me. This was the image which I took from this
Oh,
building, which is standing next to a bridge. And then I had the inspiration with reminding me on Ventropolis as well, Metropolis as well. And then I remembered myself, I have an image somewhere taken from a moon during one of my trips on Route 66 with my motorbike somewhere in Arizona or Nevada. So this was when I was diving into my archive, photograph archive, like an addicted guy who needs some, I don't know, cigarettes or whatever. And then I found this moon also. And then I started to playing around exactly with, to be honest, these are actually just two images. It's the image from the building and it's the image from the moon. And then I was playing around, I started mirroring the image upside down and the opposite way around, and that created a few versions of it. And that the version which you can actually see, Silver Moon, was maybe the fourth or fifth try, which I was at the end very happy about it.
mhm.
Two images, black and white. If you look at it in color, it looks completely different and tells you a completely different story. And then I was not sure if it's good enough. And then I was back in the days, I was attending a photography college in Vancouver. And then we had every month like a group critique. And then I used it as a platform to showcase this image. And guess what happened? Something again unexpected. I remember my one of my instructors was just sitting there, and he's usually very talkative, criticizing the images, giving you constructive critique, how to improve your work. And he didn't say a single word at all. The whole audience was silent. There was the senior class and the junior class together, maybe 50 guys, and nobody said something. It was silent for maybe about a minute. And then he looked at me. His name is Ian McGuffey. He was my mentor at this college, a very great guy. And then he looked at me, Chris, how the hell did you do this? This is so unexpected good, and we never saw this before. I never saw this before. And then and then he said right away, you should send this to Elon Musk or to Amazon, and then or to Hollywood, and then they would create something about it. And then I knew, okay, I created something unique, and which is also pleasant to look at and tells you the story.
That makes sense. Having been in that art school critique environment, the psychodrama and the tension, to have silenced the room is an incredible achievement. But not all of your images are that sort of constructed. There are others like On Drugs, for instance, which looks like
Right.
that's something that I mean, maybe there's some post-production in there, but it looks more like
Right.
something that you've seen.
I saw this. It was actually by accident. I was on an assignment in Vancouver, also during the time when I was at this art school in Vancouver, and we went to Chinatown in Vancouver, and then I drove back by bus to back home, and then I left the bus somewhere downtown, and then I walked up Granville Street. It's one of the shopping mall streets in Vancouver, and then there was a bus station, and behind the bus station is a grocery market or I think it's a drugstore. I'm not sure. And then I saw this girl standing in front of this advertising with this woman on it, and I had maybe 2 or 3 seconds to take this photograph. I had my camera here on my chest. I took it and I took the image. Didn't know what I took. I went home, loaded to my up to my computer, opened Lightroom, and I saw this guy like this with the long gray hair crossing the street. And then I looked at this face from this young, beautiful girl and to the woman on the advertising. and it looked always almost similar. And then in the back, you see this word on drugs. It's part of the name London Drugs. So that's the name of this drugstore in Vancouver. And I think, wow, what's this? I, I think I had a lucky moment finding the perfect decisive moment. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
I turned it into black and white, and here we are.
Yeah.
Creates a very strong story, I guess, when you look at it, and you find so many pieces in this unique moment, which was maybe there for a second or two.
Mm.
Yeah. Street photography, great
Yeah.
inspiration, really,
Right.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So street photography is, as with the example that you've just given, and I referenced bus stop at the top of the interview, that
Yeah,
also looks like a scene that you've discovered, a perfect moment, as you put it.
yeah.
Street photography has often got this quality of being something that is witnessed, something that is real.
Hmm.
Do you think that the sort of capacity of photographers to capture reality is something that is important in terms of their contribution to society?
I guess it's even more important than maybe back in the days with all the new technology to document reality. Some people are saying we don't need photographers anymore because we have all this new
Mm.
techniques around. I think it's very important when we are talking about sad stories like wars, which are happening right now on this planet. We have to document these moments, even if it's sad and people are dying on these photographs. But I think it's very, very important to make people aware of what's going on this planet, even if it's just street photography.
Mm.
It's kind of a journalism. It's you cannot fake the moment. It's real. I think that's how you are. How can I say this? Going back to your base where you're coming from.
Mm.
I'm not thinking all about this artificial intelligence, for example.
Mm.
It's real. So we have to. I think everyone does it with even with an iPhone or a smartphone, taking random photos, and then sometimes you see unexpected moments on this photograph. I think we have to keep this alive. If we are losing
Mm.
this, like we would also lose our history somehow, I guess.
Mm. So you're talking specifically about the rise in images which are created entirely by AI from scratch with no sort of point of empirical reality
Hmm.
in the image
Hmm.
making.
Hmm.
And I can see that in bus stop and in your on drugs photograph, that there is that quality of witnessing something.
Hmm.
It's less present in your Vantropolis series, which is more like a kind of fantasy world that you've created from
Yeah.
reality. But is there an element of reality that you think is preserved, even in the Vantropolis series, that is carried through from? Because it's a reimagining of Vancouver, isn't it? That whole series
Yeah.
is a reimagining of
Yeah.
Vancouver. How important is the real Vancouver to that series of works?
I mean, it's space for creating images of parts of Metropolis, like without having this opportunity taking those photographs from those buildings or places, which are real. I could not create my future vision of the city of Vancouver, which is in my mind a peaceful, clean environment, and we can all live together in peace and with respect and tolerance, and which is actually missing uh, in our time. And yeah, I would wish to have such a place to live, and we can accept everyone's, for example, religion or color tone of skin. Doesn't matter, in my opinion. We are all humans, and we should respect each other as we are.
Mm.
We should be grateful for the time which we have on this planet, which is already pretty short, in my opinion, too. And so, why hurt each other? It's, in my opinion, not really important. Humans should change their habits, in my opinion, and being grateful for living on this such a beautiful planet, Earth. But I guess we're doing the opposite way. I don't know why. I think we are kind of learn resistant, doing always the same mistakes. And this makes me sometimes sad. And this maybe is also part of my inspiration, creating such unreal places like Ventropolis is. But it needs also always the base, the reality, even street photography. It's very important to see what's going on, and then you can imagine what's maybe going to happen in a few, I don't know, 100 years, 1,000 years, I don't know. Yeah. But
Mm.
it's my vision, having a peaceful place on this planet, or even the whole planet should be peaceful.
Mm. Are there any projects that you've undertaken that capture that idea, that wish?
Yeah, I traveled, man, was it maybe a couple of years ago through Europe with my wife. We visited a few beautiful cities in Europe as well, like Venice, Berlin, London, and I took many, many photographs. These are some projects which I talked about it a few minutes ago. They're sitting there and they're waiting to be processed and moving on and creating maybe a new vision, but I'm not ready to do it because I have a lack of inspiration actually. Yeah,
Mm.
but I would love to be there again and yeah, start doing it. I have ideas, but it's not there ready. It's not there to be strong enough to start working on it. So I cannot. Maybe I have too much pressure on myself, or putting too much pressure on myself, creating or having the same flow as I had with Ventropolis, for example.
Mm. So while we're waiting to see those, and I'd love to see them in due course. So you must tell me when you've done it, Christian. We'll
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
again and
I
have a look
will.
at those.
Yeah.
Um, there is a set of images of yours, I think, that does have a very different kind of aesthetic from what we've been
Hmm.
looking at so far, and that communicates a kind of peacefulness and serenity. And I'm thinking of the photographs calmness and
Oh, okay.
also I'm not sure how this is pronounced, but Canadian Torii,
Yeah,
Torii.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Could you say a little bit about these photographs?
I created those images in the same time when there was the pandemic happening on this planet, and everything was completely different, and we couldn't live our regular lives, I guess. Calmness was created in Egypt, so this was during a springtime vacation in Egypt. So my family and I, we flew to Egypt. It was in March 2020, and we stayed at this beautiful location on the Red Sea. And it was I remember it was a windy day, stormy, and everything was still normal in Egypt back then. And then I took my camera and my wife, where are you going? I was like, I'm going outdoors. It's like, why? There's a storm coming and it's strong winds and it's raining. And it's like, yeah, that's why I'm going out. I had an idea. Like, it just was, I was very curious to discover the beach with all these palm trees. And there was a little gate which I saw before when we arrived. And I said, I'm going out. Taking my camera. Okay. She said, okay, be careful. I said, yes, I will. There was really strong wind, unusual for Egypt. And then I saw the angry sea. I saw the wind. I had my ND filters with me, neutral density filters, which you can create long exposure images during the day. And I stood close to a bridge and I took a photograph. And the exposure time was maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And I took another one, another one. I took a whole series. And then I went back to the room, and then my wife was happy to see me in one piece again. It's like, oh, how was it? It was beautiful out there. I was the only human being outdoors. And then the same happened again. I uploaded the images to my computer, opened Lightroom, and I was blown away. Like, wow, this is so different than it was just a few minutes outdoors. There was wind, there was rain, and this is so calm. Like the sea was completely flat. And
Mm-hmm.
I started processing the photograph, and when I was finished, I showed it to my wife and said, wow, this is so beautiful. This is so calm. And that's why I named it Calmness at the end as well. Um, the same has happened with Canadian Tory. It's this kind of similar story. This was a few months later when we were back in Vancouver, a rainy day. And I thought I'm gonna discover a place which never been before. And I drove down to this beautiful park somewhere in Steveston, I guess. It was a small fisher town in nearby Vancouver. And I saw a river. And it was kind of wild. It was raining, not really nice to be outdoors, but I loved it to be outdoors. And I took long exposure images again, and then the kind of same feeling when I opened the photograph, like, wow, this is so beautiful. It looks so calm again. And then you see this kind of gate, and it reminded me on a Japanese story. These are kind of temples, I guess, in Japan. That's why I named it Canadian Torii.
So this, looking at these images, the kind of really smooth transitions that almost look like they've been spray painted,
Yeah,
like very few kind of
yeah,
lines apart
yeah,
from the sort of wooden structure in Canadian
yeah.
Torii or the pier in
Calmness, huh?
Calmness. It's
Hmm.
because, in fact, rather than being this incredible serene view, it was strong winds, lashing waves, teeming rain, and it's the exposure time kind of smoothed out those climactic conditions.
Yeah, and also the pandemic was happening, right? We couldn't go out and just sit together and socializing with your friends. So this was also made me kind of angry.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't happy to be kind of living in a jail. I'm not allowed to going out or meet my friends and all this stuff of what was happening. I think this was also influencing this kind of work during this time of period. You have a whole series of this kind of work. In 2020, 2021. I created even more different series as well, but they have all kind of the same look when you look at it. It's calm. It was wild when I took the photograph. The world was getting insane with all these restrictions, and I tried to settle it down to something calm, serene,
Mm.
finding peace and accepting the situation because you couldn't change
Mm.
anything. You couldn't control it. Just do your best. And this was my inspiration during that day, during this time, and creating brighter images than the dark ones, which influenced the work in Ventropolis. It's completely different. So I wanted to brighten up the world with this kind of work during that time.
Mm.
It doesn't make
But
sense. I don't know.
no, it does make sense. But interestingly, as you've been talking about it, now I'm looking at them thinking this was made during the pandemic. The meaning for me has shifted a little bit because it's. I'm looking now at the moment. I'm looking at calmness on the screen as I'm talking to you, and
Yeah,
there are no people.
no,
And again, in Canadian Tory, there are no people,
no one.
and it could be,
There was no one.
and it could be an image from after the apocalypse.
Yeah.
There's a hint of the afterlife in it.
I mean, I was getting insane at home, stucking at home, and then I had to go outdoors. I had to find my own peace and not making everyone insane at home. That's why I left home, sat in
Mm.
my car and drove to places which I didn't know beforehand. So I discovered new places and found my peace. Also, I was happy when I came back home because I thought, oh, I did something good for myself, and then I had this kind of flow again. Even the times were very difficult also, but
Mm.
I enjoyed it to be very honest.
Mm.
Being by myself and yeah,
Mm.
doing this kind of work. Yeah.
So you've put an entirely new complexion on those photographs for me. It's really interesting to hear your insights and to learn what's going on behind the images. I'd like to look ahead now.
Hmm.
So you're going through a big change in your life, relocating from Canada back to your native Switzerland,
Right.
and you're yet to find your equilibrium and routine, but I'm sure you will. Looking ahead, where do you envisage your art going? Are there any new techniques or themes or projects that you're kind of keen to explore?
I mean, I'm actually learning new skills. I'm also trying to get my drone license as well. This is something which I would discover as well. Or maybe I can use my future drone images to create something completely new also as well. But I'm actually in a process to going a little bit away from the dark side. going into more the brighter side with my images, kind of similar to Calmness or Canadian Tory, and using my photographs, which I took during our trip in 2022 in Europe, like Berlin, London. I have some ideas, but I'm not ready yet. So, but I'm also learning some new skills to maybe envision in creating the new work from Christian Redermayer. Even more unexpected, maybe. It's bright. Why is it bright? So I have such ideas, and I would love to see, to be very honest, after Ventropolis had so much success and was awarded so many times. I would love to see this some of parts of Ventropolis on huge billboards, for example. Even more interesting would be an exhibition which you could walk through. I think this would be mind blowing. I can see this picture in my in my mind. Like Van Gogh had such exhibitions also in Vancouver, and I was there, and it was mind blowing walking through his images. And I would love to see Ventropolis somewhere, huge produced, and you can walk through, and then there's music maybe playing from Hans Zimmer, this great composer. Um, I don't know. I guess this would be a great, unique, memorable moment for viewers walking through Metropolis. Yeah,
That sounds like quite a project to realize, Christian.
yeah, I know. But you have the sky's the limit, you know.
It is. It is. It is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
do you have any words of wisdom or advice for aspiring photographers? So imagine someone's just started out.
When I remember when I started out, like it's actually a very good question. I remember when my mentor talked about this. I think it's very important to be persistent, first of all, because when you're starting it, you're gonna realize um, nobody's waiting for you, first of all. And then, of course, you have to have your kind of unique style of work. You have to stand out from the crowd somehow if you want to be successful, and just follow your dreams and vision and go for it, even if and it will be challenging and there will be a few hurdles. But I would say do not copy others, learn from others, but do not copy them because it's not gonna work out. Um, that's very important. Be unique, follow your dream, be persistent. If you want to work with, let's say, architects, call them more than once. Don't give up after
Mm.
a couple times. Just be persistent, and then you're standing out from the crowd. Yeah, I guess that's very important. And
Mm.
be curious what's out there. Don't focus just on one style. Just discover new fields, new techniques. That's how you grow, I guess. Even as human being or as photographer, it doesn't matter what kind of occupation do you have. Like you have to be curious as a human being as well. So you are be keeping your mind fresh, and yeah, I guess that's important.
Mm. So I'm sure that lots of our listeners are going to want to see more of your work, Christian. Where can they go and find it?
I mean, you can find me on Instagram, for example. Uh, my name is Christian Redermayer. I have my own website, which you can find my work, and on Vieunite also as well. There's some work available to look at it. There will be more in the future. These are the places where I publish my work. Yeah,
Well, make sure that we put those social media handles and links on the screen so that people can follow them.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
And Christian, I really look forward to seeing more of your work in the future. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today and learning more about what's behind your work and
Uh-huh.
the man behind the work as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again, Ben, for having me. It was a great pleasure talking with you. Yeah.
Thank you.